Hey, hello you all, and welcome to the Halloween Addicts Anonymous meeting for July of 2023. This month we're going to be working on this project called Driving Miss Crazy. Us older folks will recognize that saying a little bit from the movie Driving Miss Daisy. As always, you're welcome to change the words up if you want. You could make driving me crazy, whatever, but for us a little bit more seasoned painters, we're going to catch on to Driving Miss Crazy right away. Now this is actually painted on an old license plate. So I like to use license plates because that background, those embossed letters, add character, which you know I love to add interest to my backgrounds, and the raised lettering just does that for me. I do have available flat ones if you're not inclined to deal with the embossed letters and numbers, but just keep in mind it's going to be a little bit more boring if it's flat. So what we want to do first is we want to get our license plate prepped. And what you might end up with, if you order a license plate from me, you might end up with a plate that looks something like this. Now, I can't guarantee what states you're going to get. I only get certain states, and so I can't do special requests or anything like that. But this plate, it is just the way I received it. It's a craft grade license plate, which means it's going to have the dents and the dings and some rust and other stuff. So this one is pretty dirty. It's actually pretty flat, and the stickers are adhered pretty good, so I'm not even going to deal with taking those off. But the first thing that I want to do is take this to my kitchen sink and wash it with some warm soapy water, and just to clean it up a little bit. And this one, you would, if you got this Kansas plate, you would be lucky. The only embossing is on the letters and numbers in the plate tag number. The rest of it is flat. So I have two here that looked almost as bad as that Kansas plate, and I washed them up with warm soap and water. And these ones, you get a little bit more of the embossing because they have the state name is raised, and perhaps the state motto. Actually, this one, even the month that they need to renew is raised. So I've washed it, I've dried it, I took it out to my garage, and I gave it a quick coat of matte spray varnish. Now, if you don't have matte spray varnish, you could just give it a coat of matte medium. DecoArt has a matte medium that you could put on it. You could use decoupage medium. You just want to knock the slickness down. A decoupage medium, you want to use the matte also. And for me, the spray varnish, the matte spray varnish works the best because I'm into quick and easy, and that goes on quick and it dries fast. So I have two plates here. I'm going to start prepping them both, and then through the course of this video I will continue to paint on one of them so you can get the steps. So alright, so the first thing we want to do is we want to give this a quick coat of lavender, and you'll need out lavender, warm white, and dioxazine purple. So I'm going to use as big a brush as I have in my stash. I have bigger ones. This is a 1-inch, and I'm just going to go through and give this a quick coat of lavender. And I want to work quickly because what I want to come back and do is add some different values of color by picking up the warm white and the dioxazine purple. I'm going to go all the way to the edge, And just get into all those little nooks and crannies. Going right over those tags because they were glued down pretty good. You could pry them off if you wanted to, but you don't really need to. Another layer of interest there. So get in all those little O's and A's. Really doesn't take that long, and it's not that hard to get the paint into those nooks and crannies. Alright, so while this is still wet, I'm going to pick up some warm white on my dirty brush. It had lavender in it, and I'm just going to start slip slapping some lighter color through the center of this. And I'm going to pick up more warm white because that didn't get light enough to suit me. It got lighter, but not enough to suit me. It has to suit me. And I'm slip slapping it on in different motions, you know, going vertical, diagonally, whatever, just to get that color in there. And it kind of blends a little bit, but I think you can see it's starting to lighten up. So I'm just going to wipe that brush out, and I'm going to pick up some Diox purple, and the Diox purple I'm going to slip slap around the edges and kind of blend it back into that center. And it's going to lighten up because the lavender was wet when we did this. It's okay. As it dries, we'll add more. This is a really easy background. So just slip slap away. Slip slapping away. It's an old Simon and Garfunkel song, right? And you could play with this for a long time. Alright, so I have this first layer on. I'm going to dry this a little bit. Let me move this guy out of the way. I'll prep him in a minute. Just going to dry this a little bit so that I'm not going to wash my brush out. I'm still going to work with a dirty brush. But I want to be able to leave more paint on the surface than I have been. Doesn't have to be completely dry. And you'll find it dries pretty quick because of the metal. So I'm going to go back into my lavender and then into my warm white so I can leave a brighter center here. I don't want it too terrible bright because my lettering is done in warm white, and it would just totally get lost if I went too light, which I'm bordering on too light right now. And then I'm going to come back with just lavender. Still has warm white, so it's going to be a lighter value lavender. And I'm just going to slip slap kind of around that center to frame in that lighter color. Yeah, this is looking good. I'm just going to wipe that brush out, pick up some Diox purple, and darken those edges again. They're not going to get real dark, but dark enough that you can tell. We do come back and float some shading. So don't try to get it real dark. Just try for real dark, not real. Say that a whole lot of times. I dare ya. But you have to do it on video so the whole world can hear you. All right, so I'm going to call this done for now. I'm going to let it dry, and I'm going to put the pattern on for my pumpkin. And you can go ahead and put the pattern on for your lettering too if you want. And I don't want you to curse me, because it is going to be a little tricky to put your pattern on over these embossed letters. But you can do it. I know you can. All right, putting the pattern on takes a little patience because of those ridges and stuff from the embossed plate. So let me get this over here so I can finish this side. So what you may end up with is like a dotted line, a not finished line. Sometimes you get lucky, like right now I got lucky and I had a flat surface up here. Now I'm getting to emboss. Try not to push too hard when it's going into an embossed area, because you'll just tear your vellum. And besides, this doesn't have to be the pattern on there perfectly. So what I like to do now is, so you can see I've got bits and pieces of the pattern on here. All right, we'll go to the old style chalk pencil. Maybe I'll find a white one in here. Okay, so take your chalk pencil and just kind of connect the lines together so you can tell where you're supposed to paint. And your lines aren't going to be perfect because you're going over all of that bumpiness. Okay, get my stem on there. A couple little places that need to be connected. And so that's, you get bits and pieces of the pattern, so just complete them with a chalk pencil. So I'm going to go over here and put the lettering on. And like I said before, you can make it say whatever you like. It's your piece. Let's see how we do with this. This is going to be another adventure here. So I'll probably fast forward through putting this pattern on and slow down when I get to chalking it in again. Okay, back with the chalk pencil. Let's finish these letters off as best we can. If the lettering's not exactly like what's on the pattern, it's okay. It'll be just fine. Okay, there we go. Pattern is on. So the next thing you want to do is you want to get out some burnt orange, some golden straw, some burnt umber, and we already have warm white. So let's get out those new colors and we'll start basing in our pumpkin. All right, so I've gotten out burnt orange, golden straw, and burnt umber. Let me get a little closer to this pumpkin guy. And what I'm going to do first, and I'm using a flat brush, you can use a filbert, whatever you want, to base this in. So I'm going to base in my pumpkin first, as best as I can, over those raised parts. It's really not that difficult. As long as you get the edges, you're good. So just a nice quick coat. One coat will do. We do a lot of stuff to the top of this. You can speed through those flat parts. Okay, again, probably a fast forward moment. Okay, got a coat of burnt orange on my pumpkin. Boy, look at how you can see that 35 now. So I'm not going to clean this brush out. I'm just going to go in and pick up some golden straw. And our pumpkin is divided into 3 sections. So I'm going to start with that center section, and you can just eyeball it. It's just a pumpkin. And I'm going to start blending in some lighter color in there. The golden straw. And just keep picking up more golden straw as you go. You want to take this all the way down. I'm going to get a little bit more definite edge over here. It's all wet on wet, so if it goes on too bright, you just blend it out a little bit. And you could do this the regular way, let the orange dry and then float and highlighting and shading. But I decided I wanted to do it a little differently this time. So here again in that next section, I'm going to add some of the yellow and kind of blend it out. Since my sides have dried a little bit more than my center section had, they're going to stay a little brighter. Okay, looking pretty good. Let's go over to this side. And add some light there. Got out of the line a little bit. No biggie. Just lift it off. So my center section needs a little bit brighter on here. So I'm going to pick up, go back, and add a little more golden straw. So now just wipe your brush out. Pick up some burnt orange first, and then pick up some burnt umber. And we're going to blend our shading into the bottom. Now normally when I paint pumpkins, I do my first shade with country red, but we'll come in and add some country red with a float. So I'm just going to add this burnt umber in the bottom, and I'm also going to take it up to define those sections just a little better. Not quite like that, but you get the idea. Working wet on wet, you can just blend it right back out. On the bottom of this middle section, it's just going to come up halfway, a third of the way, Just want to deepen that lower half a little bit. And let's see, we got one more side to go. I need to blend this a little bit better. Okay, and let's do this section. If you need to, you can always go back and pick up some more orange, so you're not just blending straight burnt umber. And this one I need to bring it up the side a little bit to define that section. All right. So I am going to wash that brush out a little bit. Not a lot, it's still orange. But I just feel like my center section needs a little bit more yellow even in the top. Yeah, that's looking better. This is about as easy as it would be if we were going with a regular side load float and shading. So while we let our pumpkin dry, let's go ahead and get out some Irish moss. And we're going to paint in our stem. So just some Irish moss, and you can do this with a round brush or whatever, not so much a flat because it gets skinny. So I'm going to turn this over a little and start painting in my stem here. And it doesn't have to be opaque, and it doesn't even have to be the same shape as the pattern you put on. So just a twisty, turning little stem on that guy. Seems like every time I go to record a video, somebody decides they need to mow their lawn. I don't know if you can hear that in the background. Okay, I think I want to, stick my hand in my wet pumpkin. All right, so I've got my little stem. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the brush that I basted in, and I'm going to line some highlighting across the top mainly with golden straw. So this is still wet. You should be able to just kind of blend it in there. And I'm also going to pull a few little pieces of golden straw at the base of the stem. My stem is pretty cockeyed. Oh well, it's a Halloween piece. It's supposed to be cockeyed. So here again, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's a rough old stem. It's not dead yet. It's still green. And then what I want to do is I want to get some Hauser dark green, and I'm going to line some shading along the bottom of the stem. Okay, so same round brush. Just decide what the bottom is and start lining some rough Hauser dark green along the bottom edge. We're not going for neat and staying in the lines kind of painting. We're going for more like an impressionistic. And I want to make my stem come over a little bit further over here. So I'm going to add a little bit more Irish moss just to even it up a little bit. And I'm also going to pull a little bit of that Hauser dark green just to make it over on the highlighted side, just to make it look a little more interesting. All right, so I do want to bring a little bit of red into this pumpkin, so I'm just going to get out some country red, and like a regular side load float, I'm going to float this in the bottom of this pumpkin just to give it a little tint of red. Gets kind of tricky over those raised letters, but just keep at it. You'll get it. It'll be just fine. All right. Just needed a little touch of red in there. So now I'm going to come back with my dry brush, and I'm going to dry brush just a little bit brighter highlighting in the tops of each section with golden straw, but don't wash your brush out when you're done. So I'm just going to come in here with my dry brush and just rough. It's really rough. Brighten it up just a little bit. And let's get that center section. And then what you want to do is you want to pick up a little warm white on your dirty brush and brighten it up even just a little bit more. And that's not going to cover as much area. It's going to be a smaller highlight, and I may even bring one down here into the bottom of these sections a little bit. So warm white on your dirty brush. You just want to brighten up the highlight in the very top. And then I also want to pull a few little highlights down here in the bottom, just to give it a little more shape. All right, so what you can do now is let this dry, hit it with your hair dryer or your heat gun, and put the pattern on for the eyes and the mouth. Okay, so I just have the basic shapes for the eyes and the mouth, and what we're going to do is we're going to base those in with lamp black completely. Don't try to avoid the teeth or the pupils or anything. Just paint these shapes in, the two ovals and the boomerang looking thing, with lamp black. So while we let those dry, let's come back with some Diox purple and float shading all the way around the outside edge of our license plate. Now it is going to have a trim color, so make sure you get into the base part of the license plate, not just on this raised edge. Some plates are going to have the raised edge, some aren't. So you want it to be a pretty wide float. And obviously it's not going to be a perfect float because of all the divots and dents that are in your plate. And of course you could paint this on anything you want. It just lent itself well to a license plate. And I had a bunch of them laying around, so always want to use up the surfaces you have so that you can collect more surfaces that really makes that lighter area in the center pop. I also want to come in with my dry brush. I'll back up a little bit. And on these raised letters that are not on the pumpkin or where the lettering is going to be, I just kind of want to dry brush some warm white just to make them stand out a little bit more. So part of Nebraska is going to get it. Just want to raise them up a little bit. Get over here. Just so we can see, so people can see what you put up with to paint this thing. I'm going to do this 6 a little bit. Not too much, because our lettering is white, so I don't want it to interfere with that. All right, so now let's work on those eyes and that mouth. What you want to do first, if your eyes and mouth are dry, I'm going to hit mine real quick with the heat gun just to make sure. I'm going to dry brush some golden straw, golden yellow. There is a color, so don't get it confused. Dry brush some golden straw inside the eyes, mainly in the top, like top 2/3. And then through the center of the mouth. So just dry brush some golden straw there. And then you can wash out your dry brush. I feel like I need to reinforce the shading on the sections. So I'm going to take my flat brush and corner load into burnt umber and just reinforce the separation between the sections a little bit with a float of burnt umber. It doesn't even have to go the whole length of the section. You can stop if you get to a hard place. And I think it just needed a little bit more separation. Yeah, I think that's better. I'm going to take my liner brush and some thin burnt umber, and I'm going to line a shadow above each eye and below the mouth. So just like I normally do the shadow above the eyes, thin burnt umber, I start about halfway down on one side of the eye on the tip of my liner brush, and then as I come around the top of the eye, I flatten it out so it gets a little wider. This you'll have to work a little more because you have embossing there to deal with. So you just line that shadow above each eye. I need a little bit more. Okay. Halfway down on the tip, and then when you get around the top, you flatten it out, and then come back up to the tip on the other side. And that just kind of sets the eyes back into the pumpkin a little bit. Now I also want to line this under the mouth, not the complete bottom of the mouth. I kind of start over here on the tip, and as I come up into this curve, I flattened it out a little bit. So just a little bit of a shadow under the mouth. Now what I want to do is I want to get out some desert turquoise, and I'm going to roughly paint in the color in the bottom of each eye. So I'm going to take my round brush and some desert turquoise, and normally I would paint a shape, a crescent shaped stroke, but this one I'm just going to kind of line it kind of roughly in. It's still a crescent shaped stroke, but it's not as finished and as perfect as I normally try to do them. Of course, I shouldn't be trying to do anything perfect. So just a crescent shaped blob of paint in the bottom of each eye. Bring this up a little bit more. So don't wash your brush out. Just pick up some warm white so you get a lighter value. And we're just going to roughly line that lighter value of desert turquoise through the center of each of those blue things we did on there. I don't know what to call them, so they're now things. The next thing we want to do is there is like kind of a cut, the reflection of a cut edge in the eye and the mouth. So I'm going to take my round brush and some golden straw, and I'm just going to line one side of the eye. And it's very rough. It's not perfect. Okay? Don't try to be perfect. It's not going to work on this. And that's going to look a whole lot different when we get the pupil in. So the mouth gets it also. Kind of starts in the top and comes down around that side a little bit. And then I did line a little in the right side of the mouth on the bottom edge. All right. So now he has some teeth and he has some pupils. So let's do the pupils first. I'm going to take my liner brush, and this is going to go kind of into that blue area a little bit. I'm going to either set down or paint a nice oval for his pupil. It makes a difference if you can get it down onto that blue a little bit. It makes it stand out a little more. row of oval shaped pupils with lamp black. Now those need to dry, and then we'll add a warm white highlight. But in the meantime, we can go ahead and paint our teeth in. Now he can have as many teeth as you want. They can be as straight or as crooked as you want them, but they are just painted in with warm white. So I always start with one in the middle. Does not have to be opaque. So there's one, and he might have another one right next to it. And then a really crooked one over here. All right. So while we let that dry, let's get out our flat brush, and we're going to float some shading on the background around our pumpkin with Diox purple. So start wherever you like, but you're going to go all the way around the pumpkin and the stem with this float. This will clean up your bottom edge if you're lucky. And that's just going to help your little guy pop off the background a little bit more. And you can clean up your stem a little bit with this if you got some rough edges you don't like. So it just helps to pop him forward a little bit. Here again, it's not a race. Take your time. But keep your hands out of those pupils. On the last little bit here. All right, cool. So his teeth should be dry enough that you can come in with a very soft float of lamp black. Blend it out really well. We just want a nice soft touch of lamp black, and we're just going to float at the base of each tooth with lamp black, just to set them back into his mouth. And now my pupils are still a little wet, but they're dry enough that I can pick up some warm white on my liner brush and give him a highlight in the top of each pupil. Now he looks a little scared. So while you have Desert Turquoise out on your palette from doing his eyes, you get to finger paint. And you can do it with a brush, but the finger just works really fast. So let's see. I'm just going to take my finger and pick up some paint and kind of scrub it on my palette a little bit to get off all the blobs, okay? And I'm going to go to my piece, and on that raised edge, I'm just going to run my finger along that. And here again, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is a creepy Halloween piece. It definitely doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm just going to run all the way around this license, giving it a desert turquoise border. Got a little bit where I shouldn't. That's okay. That's why we have brushes here handy. But it really doesn't matter. I could have left it and it would have been just fine. So you're not going to get in all the cracks and stuff. And that's okay. It gives it character, right? And this kind of helps the pumpkin pop too, because it brings out the blue in his eyes. Okay. Don't wash your finger off. We're going to pick up some warm white on our dirty finger. And I'm just going to finger paint some brighter desert turquoise through the center of each side. All right. Now you can wash your finger off. Now you can do the lettering. You could do the lettering with the paint pen, or you could make it a little bit more sturdy, a little thicker, and do it with your liner brush. All right. So I used a white extra fine point paint pen. I do sell these on my website to do the lettering. So I'm going to start with something easy first, this M. You want to be very slow and methodical about this so that you don't get too much off of the pattern. Paint pen just makes it easier. Now, if you don't have a paint pen and you don't want to buy one, you could always do it with a liner brush and then the warm white. But just nice and slow. Adding this lettering. You can see I'm going around this lettering. I'm not doing it all in one line. I'm kind of breaking it up into sections. Get a lot of lumps and bumps to get over here. Turn it whichever way you need to turn it to get that accomplished. Don't press too hard. You don't need to. And enjoy the flat spots. You lucked out on crazy. Got several flat spots, which is nice. Come over here and do driving upside down so I don't stick my hand in the lettering I just did. Be really good at this by the time you're done. You'll know just how much pressure you need to apply and how your speed should be. And now if you feel like you need to, you can always go over it a second time. But I added some dots and swirls, and there was no rhyme or reason to where I did them. I just did them wherever I felt like it. So the swirls, again, slow and easy. Let's put a swirl over here. And another one over here. Change the directions of your swirls. Don't make them all swirl the same way. And just put as many dots around as you want, wherever you want. Paint pens are great for that. I'm going to put some up here by the stem. Just to fill in and add some interest. I think this place needs a swirl. Let's put a swirl over here. I'm going to go in these corners with dots, just kind of dressing the background up a little bit, adding more interest. If you wanted to come and use a stencil and add some interest that way. You could. It might not be real easy, but you could do it. Let's get some dots over here. Let's give this license plate the measles or something. Okay, so I also want to kind of highlight my pumpkin a little bit with the paint pen. So I'm going to come along and just very haphazardly give a little outline to the top of my pumpkin. And it doesn't have to go all the way down. And I want to do it on my stem, probably more than my pumpkin. Just to add a little bit more interest to him, his teeth. I'm going to scribble some highlights in his teeth. Okay, maybe a little line down here. Just wherever you want to brighten that up a little bit. All right, now if you want to add other things, hashtags, stars, whatever you'd like, just go ahead and take your paint pen and add them. Stars are kind of cute. If you want bigger dots, you could come back with your brush and add some bigger dots. Let's see, that's 3 stars. Let's give him a couple more. I love adding little details with the paint pen because it's quick and easy. And sometimes it even looks like what I'm trying to add. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He could probably stand a couple more stars. 6. Let's do one over here. Okay. I think I'm going to call this guy done. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to take my liner brush and some lamp black and thin it down and just give him a couple little eyelashes at the top of his eyes. They just look like they needed eyelashes. All right, I think we're going to call him done now. So all you need to do is sign it, varnish it, and add a wire hanger and a bow, or if you want, you could add beads to the wire hanger and make it more interesting. This was just a quick and easy piece to do on an unusual surface. So I hope you had fun, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime.